decided the other day, tangent time, everyone, that I'm gonna start up another Star Wars campaign for my friends. And so I'm doing a lot of, sort of planning and outlining and stuff like that. But that's the sort of thing that when you're writing a show, right? Not just as a showrunner, but the writer, right?
Yes.
You are explicitly putting things on or not on the page. Is when you're setting up scenarios in a tabletop game, it's the same sort of thing of I can decide whether or not the Empire is following proper protocol at any time because I'm playing with the difficulty scale of whatever the thing is, right? You try to, as it's called, chase your players up a tree so they have to deal with something, right? They can't go off and go to another tree. You have to deal with this thing first, but I can decide, oh, they didn't, their fighter cover is somewhere else, or they forgot to do it, or I just don't mention it at all, right? And they're like, oh shit, thank God there's no fighter cover, we can get out of here. Like, yeah, thank God. I totally forgot. Oh yeah, the Empire's off the game now. But it's that sort of thing of like thinking ahead of like, how many obstacles are you going to put down, right? Because sometimes, like, I feel like some of the writing for a traditional narrative like this, for a TV show, book, a movie, where you control everything, right? You are setting up, intentionally putting obstacles in front of the characters to challenge them and provide moments of drama, right? But with tabletop, because your main characters are other people improvising and doing whatever wild shit, it becomes like a game, us tabletop games. And so some of these become like puzzles, right? Where like a video game like Assassin's Creed, where you actually have to figure out your way in and around this and this and that and that. Well, someone designed that whole setup, right? To figure out what are all your sort of decision options, right? So it's the same sort of thing. So when I saw the lack of air cover, I was like, okay, why are they doing that? So anyway, that's my tangent. I'm starting up the Star Wars campaign again.
Right on. How many people you got in on it?
So I'm going to try to do 5 to 6. I did that with the Star Wars campaign I did like 2 years ago, and then we switched over to D&D and pretty much had the same. I can manage 5 to 6. It gets more than that. You have too much time between, because usually you go in an order in combat of like, okay, number 1, you go. Okay, number 2. Okay, the bad guy's going to go. Now number 3. Okay, now number 4, another bad guy's going to go. And it's like, the more players and bad guys you have on the combat, the longer it takes to get back to the first person. Right?
That makes sense.
Right? And it's just, there's less spotlight to go around. So 5 to 6, but I've only told one of my friends who's like also a long time GM game master, like running some ideas past them, and they're clearly going to be one of the players that I invite. But I just want to have the pitch ready yet and a little bit of the groundwork done. So
are you doing it via like online, like through Zoom or something like that, or is it going to be in person?
So, oh man, if I had my druthers, it would be in person, but it's just so much easier to do it online. We did the original Star Wars campaign and the D&D campaign online, so we use Discord for audio. And we switched over from Roll20, which is an online browser sort of tabletop environment where you have character sheets and all that sort of stuff, and roles in a chat window and blah, blah, blah. And we switched over to another one called Foundry VTT, which is just, in my opinion, a lot better. So we did that for D&D. I need to see if we can load basically the Star Wars system that I want to use into that environment and see how that works, blah, 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 blah. So there's a little bit of technical stuff I got to make sure first. But man, once that gets rolling, it's really fun because you can still have, like, one of the fun things with like an in-person game is you can have like printouts and handouts where it's like not just like I describe a thing. It's like no, I give you a piece of cardstock and it has a picture of your sword on it and your stats and and you can blah blah blah. But with the tabletop games, what you can also do is you can preload a whole bunch of that stuff. So if you want a map, you can preload the map, and you want a picture of a character, and you can have the character and a description and a bio and a da-da-da. And so when you want to introduce an NPC, you don't just have to rely on verbal description. You can hit a button and it pops up for all the players and they can see it. So there's all sorts of interesting things that you can do virtually better than you can do in person. But sort of the difficulty limitation is the audio crosstalk.
Yeah.
Like you can't really have side conversations. Like at a table, you and me could be like working through a scene or something, right? Or maybe you, me, and 2 or 3 other people. And then Jimmy and so can be like having a little sidebar, not disrupting the rest of the flow.
Can you do it as like a private chat boxes or private chat?
Oh, yes. So there's whisper commands.
Okay.
So if you want to use chat, you can do whisper commands. So one of the fun things that we figured out how to do, a couple of the virtual tabletops do this, where like a classic thing in D&D is like, there's all these languages, the elves, you have dwarvish, you have infernal, all this bullshit. And so you can, gain proficiency and you can understand those, blah, blah. But one of the cool things that happens with the virtual one is the GM can go into the chat window, select the language, and start typing stuff out. And for anyone that doesn't know the language, that doesn't have that proficiency checkbox on that language, it just shows up, and it's different scripts. Like it's an elvish font, dwarvish runes, but it's gibberish.
Yeah.
But anyone that does understand it gets a separate bubble of like, that's what this means.
That's
so
cool.
You can have entire side conversations in the chat and they're like, what are you doing? What are they saying? What are they saying?
That's cool.
So my buddy Bree, they ran a D&D game. It was on a different system, not Foundry. I forget what it was, but it also had a similar thing. This is the first time I saw it. And my character was a half-elf noble. If anyone doesn't realize how much of a dork I am, you know now. But I was, rich, and I had training, and I did this, and I had this background, and this and that. By the time we got to like 5th level, I knew 11 languages.
Wow.
So anyone that we ran into, I could talk to and understand what they were saying. And even some of the other, I had a little chart on my desk of which languages my other party members did and didn't know. So I could specifically talk in languages when I wanted to talk to specific people because I was the head of the party.
Yeah. That's cool.
So there are fun things that you can do with that that's a little bit harder to do in person. But I would love to have 1 or 2 sessions in person, but it's going to be tricky because I think Bree's back on like the East Coast now. Okay. A bunch of my players are around the Bay Area, but it's like it's just hard. We're fucking adults and we're not like all teenagers or in our college dorms. We're like, all right, come across the street and we'll play. Yeah.
Well, good thing about technology, you can still stay connected with all the, with all the life in between. So that's pretty
right.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It lets us do this podcast.
That's right. That's right. Hey, it's Jay. If you enjoyed my conversation with Ryan, please check out our episodes where we talked about the Book of Boba Fett, Spider-Man No Way Home, and the movie Batman. Thanks for listening, and until next time, peace. Thanks for listening, and please like and subscribe. Be sure to check out past and future episodes of this show, along with my other shows entitled The Movie Bench Quarterbacking Podcast and The J and Podcast, available now on all streaming platforms. Until next time, peace.